The rich man most enjoys night swimming in the 16-story sky pool. A strange man suddenly appears and activates the electromagnetic pulse device in his hand, causing the 420-centimeter thick glass to shatter right away. Within a week, 3 terrorists of different nationalities are successively killed, and the murderer who killed these big shots turns out to be just a programmer. Charlie is a codebreaker for the CIA, working in an office 5 floors underground at Langley headquarters. Recently, Charlie's wife Sarah was going to London on a business trip for 5 days. Reluctantly saying goodbye to Sarah, Charlie used his official position to track Sarah's location via satellite. When he went to work, Charlie was a very dedicated employee. After confirming his wife had safely arrived at her destination, he threw himself totally into his work. Field agent Jesse asked Charlie to deal with an encrypted file. During the process of cracking it, he found that it recorded an accidental bombing operation that caused a major tragedy 5 years ago. The file mentioned a suicide bombing that killed about 150 people, including 7 Danish Marines. The U.S. Department of Defense denied any American involvement in the incident, blaming it on terrorists, but the person who signed the attack document was Director Moore. Unsure whether to report to his superiors, Charlie could only leave the company with his computer first. He tried calling his wife, but she didn't answer. Charlie assumed Sarah was busy and didn't think much of it. Early the next morning, Moore took Charlie to the director's office on the 7th floor. He thought the secret file matter had been exposed, but Director Munsa delivered tragic news. Sarah had been hijacked by terrorists during an academic conference in London, and was killed. With the 4 perpetrators already vanished, Charlie struggled to accept the truth, but the images in the news left him no escape. He couldn't understand why the killers hadn't been caught. London has roughly 400,000 surveillance cameras, and it should be easy for the CIA to apprehend a few criminals. Moore said, "We're fully investigating," and suggested Charlie take some time off. After returning home, he constantly felt as if Sarah hadn't left. The next day, his wife's belongings were returned from London, and Charlie hurried to claim them. Inside the familiar suitcase was an exquisite gift box, Sarah's present. For him, a set of out-of-print puzzle toys. Overwhelmed with grief, Charlie buried his face in his wife's clothes and wept. After the sorrow, the most important thing was to find the truth. Using CIA resources, Charlie launched an investigation, and quickly pieced together the general outline of the incident. At around 11 a.m., 4 suspects went into the hotel, through the staff entrance in a stolen van, which had been stolen in the East End at about 1:24 a.m. All fingerprints and DNA at the scene were professionally erased. After going into the hotel, the 4-man team conducted a transaction with an Indonesian impact investment firm. A conflict broke out during negotiations, and the brawl spread from the hotel room to the corridor, resulting in 1 security guard dead and another seriously injured. The police were right away alerted, and the suspects fled the building rapidly. They decided to take a hostage as insurance. The reason Sarah was chosen was that she was trying to save people at the time. Facial recognition revealed that the Russian who took Sarah was named Mishka Brazik. Combined with VoicePrint system comparison with global databases, Charlie identified another suspect, Lawrence Elish, a South African, who appeared to be responsible for transporting goods for the whole team. In short, the gang retreated with 3 hostages. During this time, armed police arrived from SA Pancras station, quickly sealed off the area, and snipers took their positions, but due to the hostages, they had to stand by temporarily. The person holding Sarah hostage was very cautious. Sensing the police arrival, he planned to shoot Sarah in the street, to threaten the police into clearing a path. The kidnapper deliberately wore a mask to avoid surveillance, and didn't say a word throughout. In theory, identification should have been difficult, but Charlie processed all surveillance footage, mobile phones, dash cams and body cams, piecing them into a 360-degree view, to finally reveal the person's identity. His name was Horst, loosely connected to dozens of mercenary and defense organizations. The last rioter was named Gretchen, a former Armenian intelligence officer. She now lives in Paris, and visits the same bakery every day to buy coffee. They appeared to act as intermediaries between malicious state actors and terrorist organizations. When Charlie finished his report, he noticed his superiors were unusually calm, as if they had already uncovered this information. Moore explained, "We want to catch more than just these 4 people, also the whole network behind them. This concerns U.S. sovereignty and security." After saying this, he suggested Charlie see a psychologist first. This way, you can move past the shadow of your wife's death, and work properly. Since it involved work issues, Charlie had to go talk to a psychologist. After this difficult conversation, Charlie didn't, as the psychologist advised, learn to accept reality and let go of Sarah's death. Since his superiors refused to investigate right away, Charlie would force them to. He stuffed a microchip into the interlayer of his ID badge to bypass the security equipment at the main entrance. Then Charlie printed the documents of Moore's approved bombings 5 years ago and used professional equipment to erase traces. He took these materials to Moore's office and directly exposed the lie. It was you who ordered the destruction of hospitals in Syria, allied bases in Yemen, residences of Afghan politicians, and border crossings in Somalia. Charlie conservatively estimated these operations caused at least 1,000 casualties, including about 400 innocent civilians. If this scandal were exposed, the consequences would be unthinkable. Charlie had set up a dead man switch. If he didn't enter a code every 5 hours, these documents would automatically be sent to 3 top investigative journalists. After 24 hours, the files would be completely public. To avoid this, Moore had to provide information on the 4 criminals they held, sufficient cash and fake ID documents, and the CIA had to arrange special agent training for Charlie. He wanted to find those 4 criminals and kill them with his own hands. Moore mocked, "A programmer like you would struggle to kill a 60-year-old grandma, even with training, you won't amount to much?" Charlie ignored his mockery and left the company, unable to hold back vomiting. As soon as he stepped out of the building, after all, threatening a superior was still too much for him. Moore and his colleagues decided to first comply with Charlie's demands, then investigate whether the dead man switch actually existed. If Charlie was lying, they would find a way to kill him. A few days later, Charlie went to a secret training base, where an instructor named Mate had been waiting. For a long time, Moore sent people to ransack Charlie's office and residence. They found that 6 days ago, Charlie sent files to a printer, then used a magnetic stripe reader to read them, and rewrote the software in the printer. No one could figure out how he brought the magnetic stripe into the building. Through layers of security checks, Charlie, a programmer who had sat in an office for decades, found it almost impossible to become a combat expert overnight. His marksmanship was so bad that he could perfectly avoid the target every time, only hitting it when he was 1 meter away from the target paper. Luckily, there is always a way out. Mate discovered that this guy was a demolition genius. After a period of devil training, Charlie barely mastered various survival skills. Mate personally helped make fake documents, but he didn't think Charlie's plan was feasible. The programmer was very smart, but he was really not cut out for killing, so Mate hoped Charlie would think twice. The training here was coming to an end. But Moore's investigation into Charlie had made no progress. They finally found a suspicious CD and managed to decrypt it, only to find it was empty. It was feared that the dead man switch didn't exist at all. Feeling deceived, Moore simply ordered Charlie's execution. The other party had installed a listening device in his office. The day Charlie took the documents upstairs, by the time Mate received the order and was ready to act, Charlie had already slipped away with his passport, that he could crack biometrics, and steal a cleaner's access card in such a short time. Mate felt maybe we had all underestimated Charlie. After listening to the report, Moore realized the problem right away. He took out the documents Charlie had sent before, and indeed found a bug in them. At this time, Charlie had taken the fastest flight from Washington Dulles to London Heathrow. He first went to the place where his wife died, Des Moines, then took a train to Paris. Charlie was ready to start with Gretchen, who was easier to track. The CIA got the news right away that one of Charlie's passports had been checked by immigration on the way to Paris, but regarding the secret documents, Moore didn't plan to alert the local liaison in London. He would send his own people to pursue and kill Charlie. At this point, Charlie was staking out near the bakery Gretchen frequented. The bread here must be very delicious, because Gretchen appeared as soon as the time came. He used a satellite to lock onto Gretchen's position right away, and thereby found out the other party's home address. In the evening, when Gretchen went out on a date, Charlie quietly sneaked into the apartment building and searched online for lockpicking methods. He was very good at mechanics and could understand it at once. He successfully went into Gretchen's residence. Charlie photographed the schedule marked on the calendar, and found a pistol in the drawer. It couldn't be a better murder weapon. Just then, the phone alerted Gretchen had arrived downstairs. Charlie quickly hid around the stair corner. One pull of the trigger, and Gretchen would be dead. But Mate was right. Charlie wasn't cut out for killing. While he struggled mentally, Gretchen had already went into the room. Charlie dashed back to the hotel. Since he couldn't pull the trigger, he had to find another way. Gretchen's schedule listed a hospital. Researching online, Charlie found it specialized in asthma and respiratory allergies, and an idea struck him. Charlie first bought a bouquet of lilies and sunflowers, then locked Gretchen in a sealed room during her hospital visit, and flooded it with pollen. Gretchen showed breathing difficulties right away. Charlie said, "Tell me where Horst is, and I'll let you out." Weakened by the pollen, Gretchen could barely speak when Charlie tried to open the glass door. He fell for her trick, she charged, and they tumbled to the ground in a struggle. Due to her respiratory condition, Gretchen pushed Charlie away and fled the hospital, but a speeding car hit her in the middle of the road. Charlie grabbed Gretchen's phone and fled. That night, he bought a ticket to Marseille. CIA's Munsa soon noticed Gretchen's death. To hide the secret files, Moore lied that Gretchen was killed by her own people, likely a consequence of the failed London operation. No CIA involvement, though Charlie had avenged one foe. His emotions were tangled. Taking a life tormented him. Charlie stumbled into a bar to drink. Through his haze, he thought he saw his wife, but the illusion shattered when Mate appeared. Knowing Mate was sent to kill him, Charlie shoved through the crowd and bolted. Hiding in another tavern, Charlie was tracked down by Mate within minutes. Trapped in a windowless bathroom, he had no choice but to confront him. "How did you find me?" Charlie asked. Mate replied, "That phone you took from Gretchen was a beacon. Sometimes smarts don't matter. Panic ruins plans." Charlie retorted, "You're a good teacher, but you forgot my specialty."
Base charge on a timer.
Charlie escaped Mate's sight in the chaos. Fearing his hotel was compromised, he spent the night in a park. Charlie had a hacker friend online, a kindred spirit, asking to stay with him. The hacker agreed right away, without delay. Charlie boarded a plane to Istanbul, Turkey. He first went to a cafe as instructed by the hacker. Charlie looked around and found someone who seemed like the hacker. Just as he was about to get up and ask, a woman wearing a headscarf leaned over and handed Charlie a book. It turned out that the hacker was actually a young woman. Both of them used processed male voices when sending voice messages, so Charlie had always thought the other party was male. Her name was Mary. Mary was very cautious. She first asked Charlie to stuff all his backpack and hat into a woven bag, then instructed him to go to a parking lot 4 blocks away and wait there half an hour later. "If you confirm you're not being followed, we'll meet and talk in detail." After the two shook off all potential dangers, Charlie finally got into Mary's car. Her husband was a CIA informant and a former member of the Soviet Security Committee, but he died from a freak fall from a building. This was probably the fate that every intelligence officer would face, but Mary's husband was far-sighted and had taught all his skills to his wife before he died. Mary thus replaced her husband and continued to maintain contact with Charlie's department. Now she took Charlie to a safe house by the sea. Over the years, Mary had been avoiding the Russians and never stayed in one place for more than 3 months. She was well aware of Charlie's situation. Mary pulled up the profiles of several gangsters. Horst was the leader of the organization, playing the role of an intermediary in the diffusion chain. Combining with the information in the secret files, it could be inferred that Horst had recruited mercenaries for Director Moore's black operations. As for the South African Elish, he was very paranoid and was in charge of weapon preparation, so the two had to find a way to lure him out of the shadows. Mary proposed, "We can first hint that there's a contract for Elish, and see if he'll make contact." Finally, there was the Russian Mishka. Although he lived in Moscow, he often traveled around the world. Mishka enjoyed luxury and always traveled first class. He was definitely the weak link among the remaining 3. Mishka updated a vacation photo last week. Although there was no specific information, Charlie quickly sorted out the following based on the background. The vineyard suggested Mishka was probably in a place with a hot climate, and the soil exposed between the vegetation was chalk or granite. The low-angle sunlight shone on his wineglass, running north-south, so the photo was taken at sunrise. The church exposed in the corner of the background was clearly Spanish style, so the climate was also hot in October. The reflection in the glass window showed a woman, indicating that Mishka was likely with his girlfriend. Mary activated facial recognition right away to lock down Mishka's girlfriend's identity. From his girlfriend Voya's social media, it was known that she had just flown from Moscow to Madrid last week. Mishka could never have imagined that a casually taken photo would reveal his location. In the meantime, although Moore's men had lost track of Charlie, as long as they kept an eye on the 3 criminals, they weren't worried about not finding his location. Munsa noticed Moore's actions and planned to remind him to stop any black operations. Moore told Munsa, "The previous leader also said the same thing to me, and he quickly became previous." Moore's meaning was simple: don't think just because you outrank me now, I can't make someone step down in a heartbeat. Munsa stopped wasting words with Moore and ordered someone to tail them and find out what this group was up to. Charlie tracked down through city surveillance that Mishka was now at the Aguilar Hotel. Charlie believed Moore must also be watching him. If he acted rashly, he might be exposed. So he asked Mary to access the hotel's security system to keep an eye out for Mate. Charlie went to the Madrid hotel alone. Mishka loved night swimming so much that he specially paid the staff To empty the rooftop pool for his use, the hotel's sky pool was suspended 16 stories high, 70 meters above the ground. The transparent glass had a total thickness of 420 centimeters, composed of 3 glass panels with air gaps, capable of holding up to 150 tons of water. Although the structure looked dangerous, it was actually very stable. After Charlie obtained the pool's design plans, he designed a sophisticated electromagnetic pulse device. That night he returned to the hotel, where Mishka was instructing the front desk to clear the upstairs pool on time again that night. Before Charlie could act, he realized he was being followed.
Second stool down at the bar. He's been following me.
Well, where there's one, there's always more.
Mary quickly checked the whole hotel lobby and found Nate. He was now heading toward the elevator. As for the man at the bar, he was also from the CIA. Logically, Charlie should have retreated right away, but he didn't want to miss this opportunity.
Tell me where to find Horst Schiller.
Who are you?
You held a gun to my wife's head.
Charlie bluntly said, "The remote in my hand controls a device that's releasing the air between the glass panels under your feet. If I press the button, the glass will shatter. So you'd better tell me where Horst is." Mishka tried to swim to the edge, but the next second spiderweb cracks appeared in the glass. He swam desperately forward, but still fell from 70 meters up. Mary told Charlie to head toward the basement, where there was an exit at the back. Nate was near the stairwell. Then Mary found someone already staking out near the basement. She quickly searched for an escape route, but Nate chased after them right away. Just as he was about to grab Charlie, the agent from the bar suddenly pounced. Could this person have been sent by Munsa? Why else would he stop Mate's action? The two fought in the laundry room, and Mate grabbed the agent to stuff him into a washing machine. The agent pulled a holster from his boot and wounded Mate. Unluckily, he missed the vital spot and was killed by Mate in turn. Charlie took the opportunity to leave the hotel. The next day, Munsa called Moore to her office and asked where Charlie was now. Moore said the other party was still on leave. His subordinates then pulled up the hotel surveillance and found that Charlie had worn headphones the whole night, meaning he had an accomplice. The analyst found the hotel's security system had been hacked last night, but the technique was so sophisticated that it was hard to trace. But coincidentally, Charlie had mentioned to a colleague that he had a friend living in Istanbul. Following this lead, the CIA found that the person Charlie was talking to had the codename Parasite, who had been loyal to the Russian Security Council, was turned bias in 2004, and died in 2017. But it was highly likely that his wife took over his number. Moore's accomplice contacted the Russian station chief in Istanbul right away, leaving the problem to these Russians to solve. In the evening, the poultry raised outside Mary's safe house were frantically chirping, and Russian agents had appeared on the surveillance. Luckily, Mary had already planned an emergency escape route. She quickly evacuated the safe house with Charlie, found and started a vehicle hidden not far away, but Russian agents were hot on their tails. The two raced all the way, thinking they had shaken off the agents, when a bullet fired from a speedboat penetrated the glass and wounded Mary. Charlie quickly carried her to the passenger seat and continued driving forward. In the early morning, they finally escaped the pursuit, but Mary didn't make it due to excessive blood loss. At this point, Charlie had no choice but to move forward. He borrowed Mary's phone to contact the arms dealer Elish, and made an appointment with him for an offline transaction. Charlie purchased all the materials needed to make the bomb. When everything was ready, he went to a warehouse in Romania. Charlie first scanned his facial information from all angles, then pasted it onto the face of a passerby on a Berlin street, thereby diverting the attention of CIA agents. When the appointed time came, Elish arrived at the warehouse with his men, but Charlie was nowhere to be found. Only a disposable phone was placed on the chair. Following Charlie's instructions, Elish opened the box to count the cash, which triggered a special bomb in the box. If Elish put down the lid or crossed the light beam, it would explode. Sarah's photo was pasted inside the box, but Elish had long forgotten who this was. Charlie emerged from the shadows, and the lackeys abandoned their boss and fled right away. Elish couldn't count on anyone else, so he could only explain, "It wasn't me who shot and killed your wife. Horst was the real mastermind, and he's been missing since Gretchen and Mishka's accidents." Charlie said, "Then what's the use of keeping you?" As he spoke, he was about to activate the remote control. Elish hurriedly stopped him, saying that Horst might be in the Russian waters, and he had a precious boat. Charlie retorted, "Are you playing with me? There are 25,000 miles of coastline there. Where am I supposed to look for someone? If you don't give an exact location." Elish indeed didn't know Horst's hiding place, but when the two had conducted arms transactions before, it was mostly in a port in the Baltic Sea.
How do you contact him?
He uses 2 numbers for his men. Codes, they know it's me.
After Charlie took Elish's phone, he didn't let Elish leave as agreed, but allowed Elish to be killed by the bomb. By the time Moore realized it, he knew he had been played. Charlie came to the port mentioned by Elish, and first rested for a night in a street hotel. The next day, he went to the dock to investigate, but Charlie quickly noticed someone tailing him. He turned around and left, only to find that the one chasing after him was actually Jesse. Jesse had been saved by Charlie's intelligence during a field mission. He couldn't bear to see his benefactor die in Russia, so he urged Charlie to cut his losses and leave with him. But Charlie lingered at the dock for days, investigating every suspicious ship. The day he finally found Horst's contact, he was knocked out with a club. By evening, several burly men dragged Charlie onto a high-seas freighter, where Horst was waiting in the cabin. He had thought this CIA agent was one of Moore's men sent to silence him, but learned that Charlie had tracked him down solely to avenge his wife. Horst bluntly said, "I remember your wife and regret her death, but it was necessary. When the police blocked all exits, we had to kill a hostage to make a statement. If not your wife, it would have been someone else. And your actions now are no different from mine, too. Finally, you killed Gretchen and the others, didn't you?" Those three didn't kill Sarah. They were just following orders. Horst knew exactly how the others had died, so he guessed Charlie couldn't kill up close. Probably, every time he acted, his conscience ate at him. To prove his point, Horst handed Charlie a pistol, telling him to pull the trigger and kill him. Charlie took the weapon and motioned for Horst to kneel. Just as Sarah had knelt in London that day, Charlie hesitated longer and longer, and even Horst began to feel uneasy.
That's what I came here for. To make you feel what she felt in that moment.
Charlie finished speaking and dropped the weapon. Then the freighter lost control. Charlie explained calmly, "This ship is a vault, using encryption software I designed at the CIA, and Charlie's watch served as a transmitter." Horst capturing him on the ship had actually saved Charlie time. Now he had taken control of the vessel, and steered it into Finnish waters. Alarm sirens sounded ahead. The Finnish Navy and Interpol had arrived. Horst had no choice but to surrender. Shortly after, a meeting was convened at CIA headquarters. Munsaw exposed Moore's black operations, and all those involved would be sent to the military court. Charlie, having atoned for his actions, would continue working at the agency. Someday, time would heal his grief, and so the story ends, with acclaimed actors like Rami Malek and Rachel Brosnahan. It's surprising they starred in such a cliché story, a classic narrative of a strong male lead, who grows stronger through hatred and takes revenge for love. This trope is long out of fashion. Action scenes are severely lacking, with the main focus on highlighting the main character's intelligence and strategy. But a spy thriller without action elements is like eating dumplings without dipping sauce, leaving you feeling unsatisfied. Overall, it's like a script generated by AI, formulaic and unremarkable.